and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you an eyeshadow palette declutter. I get in such a mood to declutter for springtime. I'm ready to get rid of some more eyeshadow palettes. I did do a declutter back around like November, so I had gotten rid of a lot of palettes recently, but I'm ready to get rid of more. I'm constantly getting new palettes, either in PR or just buying them. I buy more eyeshadow palettes than anything else in makeup, but that's just what I love, and I'm ready to pass along whatever palettes like I'm not really using anymore. And with all my palette declutters, I donate to Project Beauty Share. I mentioned them recently in my face palette declutter video, but if you guys aren't familiar with them, I will leave the information and the address to them below. Basically, they're an organization located in Washington. You can donate any used makeup products to them that are in good shape, which is great with eyeshadow palettes because they can be clean and sanitized. They will sanitize them when you ship them, and they will pass them along to various women's shelters. So I love doing that because I have so many palettes that I end up testing out for reviews and maybe like don't use a ton, so they're still in really great condition, but I don't need to keep them in my collection. I can definitely donate them and pass them along to someone else who can use them. So I'll leave all the information about Project Beauty Share below, and if you guys want to see what I'm going to be decluttering in this video, then just keep on watching. Alright, so here are my two eyeshadow palette drawers. This one typically has the palettes that I wear more, but there's still some like random palettes in here. And then this second one is typically palettes that I wear less, or some like bigger palettes like my Morphe palettes too. I don't have a number that I want to get rid of, but we're just gonna go for it. I did declutter a ton of palettes like in the past couple months, but I'm ready to pass along some more, especially ones that are in good condition. So this one, starting off, I got in a BoxyCharm a couple months ago. I wasn't excited about it when I got it, still not excited about it, so I'm gonna pass it along. I've never actually heard of this brand. I'm not really sure about this palette, but it's swatched pretty. It's a pretty palette, but I'm definitely not gonna miss it, and it's still super new, so I can definitely donate it, and it's gonna be in really great condition. Anastasia, anything from Anastasia we're not getting rid of, definitely not, so I'm just gonna put these aside. Sultry, Soft Glam, Norvina, these are literally my favorite palettes. I have a video of my top 10 favorite palettes from last year. These are all in it for sure. There's still palettes I wear on the weekly. Next, let's see, I'm gonna declutter this. This is, have I ever used this? I don't even know if I've used this. This is from Rimmel. Just because I have so many similar palettes to this, I'm gonna pass it along for donation as well. It basically is like a drugstore version of the Urban Decay Naked Heat, but I have the Naked Heat and I love it, so can pass that one along. Definitely, we're not getting rid of the most expensive thing in here, Natasha Denona Gold palette. You guys can see that this is a well-loved palette. Yeah, it's great. Of course, I'm keeping it. It's $129, so that's not going anywhere anytime ever. Chocolate Gold, love this one too. I need to start wearing this one a bit more, and that's why I want to do a declutter, is so I actually can take more time to rotate the palettes that I actually love, so they're not like buried in this drawer. But love this palette, it's great. It's gonna be on sale at Ulta, I think, in the next few days. So yeah, if you guys are interested in it, it's a good one. Alamar Cosmetics, this is La Reina del Caribe palette. I don't wear this one enough, but this is like a really summery palette, and you guys know how I feel about palettes and makeup that have names in Spanish. They're not going anywhere in my collection. They're staying here. So I definitely need to wear this one more. The formula is actually really great in this palette. It's just like a little bit of a bolder palette, and that's why I don't wear it as often, because I tend to do more neutral looks. Do I want to keep this? I think I'm going to keep it for now because I actually really like this. I wonder if I should keep it actually. So let me tell you guys how I feel. Okay, so I do, obviously, I like this shade a lot. I would wear this on my lid when I had it in my everyday makeup drawer every day for like a month, and then I would wear this as a transition shade, and then I wouldn't really wear this at all. So I think I'm gonna keep it even if I'm not using those shades, and then I'll revisit probably at the end of the summer. If I haven't really used this palette anymore, then I will pass it along for donation. This is the Too Faced Natural Eyes palette. This is a really good neutral, kind of cool tone palette from Too Faced. I specifically am obsessed with Chocolate Martini. This is my favorite outer V color, and then I love this gold honey pot. and that's like basically why I keep this palette, because the rest are like really cool tone. So if you want a cool tone palette, definitely check this one out. But you guys know I tend to go for warm tones, and I love these two bottom shades that much to justify the whole palette for me. But it is a really good formula if you guys like cool tone neutral palettes. It's definitely a really good one. Tarte Toasted, I need to put in an everyday makeup drawer in the next month or two. I was just talking about this in my Ulta recommendations video, and this is actually a pretty good palette. It's a neutral, warm tone, very standard palette, but the quality is really awesome. So definitely need to start wearing this one more. We're definitely keeping the Through My Eyes ColourPop palette. This is one of my favorites from ColourPop. You guys can see I've used a lot of the shades. I had it in my everyday makeup drawer for like 2 months, and I was wearing this all the time. So love this palette. Definitely hang on to it. Salvaje. Same thing. Love this palette. Not going anywhere in my collection. Highly recommend it. This palette's awesome. This and Through My Eyes, I love wearing those together. Like those both together for traveling and everything are like the palettes that basically have everything that I need. Urban Decay Born to Run is another favorite. I haven't actually used this in a little while either. I need to play with this palette more this year, because I was using it non-stop like last fall and winter, and then I kind of took a break from it with all the new releases this year. So I need to start using this one again. Definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorites from Urban Decay. So I realize I haven't decluttered barely anything so far, but this is also my favorite palette drawer, so I'm not going to declutter too much from here. I'm going to go through everything, and then most of my declutter is going to be in my second drawer. Well, this one just popped out, so let's talk about it. This is from Persona Cosmetics. I love this brand so much. I actually think I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one, because their other palette I actually like a lot more, just because I don't wear pink tone shades too often. This one's still pretty new in my collection, so I'm going to pass this one along. Really great quality. If you guys want like an all matte pink palette, this one's awesome. And then the copper one I love. So this is the one that I definitely like a lot more, just because it's like shades that I tend to wear more often. The quality of their formula is amazing, and I think that they're going to be releasing a new eyeshadow palette this summer, so I'm really looking forward to that. So keeping the copper and donating the pink palette. Over here I have some drugstore palettes. I'm going to keep, I don't need to keep this e.l.f. one, the Modern Models palette. This is pretty, but I have another palette that I'll show you guys from e.l.f. That I like more. So I'm going to pass this one along. It's good. I just have other things from e.l.f. that I like better. So I think I'm going to hang on to this one from Wet n Wild. This is the Rose in the Air palette. This is the drugstore $5 dupe to the Modern Renaissance palette. I actually have a comparison video on my channel doing one eye with this palette, one eye with the Modern Renaissance. So hanging on to this, it's a good like drugstore staple. I like this one too from CoverGirl. I feel like this is kind of basic, but I actually really like the formula, and I wore this a lot last spring and summer. I'm really into peach for spring, so I'm gonna hang on to this. CoverGirl, this formula is really good. So if you guys see it at the drugstore, this is one of my favorites from the drugstore as well. All right, so this one I'm gonna be donating as well. This is from Smashbox. This is their glitter palette. Yeah, their glitter eye palette. And you guys can see I barely use this palette. It's nice, but it's not worth hanging on to for me, just because I have like all these other shades in other palettes for sure, and this isn't gonna be like the palette that I reach for if I want like a glittery green or a blue or anything like that, like when I have all my Anastasia palettes that have like all those matte shades that I like too. So nothing wrong with the formula, just picking and choosing the best of the best in my collection, and so I'm gonna be donating this one. And then we have this palette from PYT Beauty. I use this very lightly. I probably just used it like very few times, and I don't feel the need to keep it in my collection. I have all of these shades in a million other palettes in my favorite formulas. So I'm gonna be donating this one as well. I'm gonna hang on to this palette from e.l.f. This is the new J Kissa collab. This is really colorful, mostly matte as well. So I'm gonna hang on to this one, especially because I got rid of that other Modern Metals that has like similar shades, but this one's like more pastel, colorful shades whenever I want to do drugstore tutorials. And I have a tutorial using like almost all the shades in this palette on my Instagram, really easy to do really quick eye looks with that palette. Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remastered. I actually really like this palette. This was also one of my favorites from 2018. Love all this top row. Super foiled, super metallic, super pigmented. Love it. Definitely need to wear it more. Oh, let me move these out of the way so they don't confuse you guys with like what I'm keeping and what I'm getting rid of. Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. This is like my heart and soul in a palette. Not because of the colors, not because of the formula, just because of like the story times and the moments and experiences that I've had with this palette. So let me know if you guys actually want to see a video, like a makeup story time video on like all my sentimental makeup products, or like products that I bought that have a memory attached to them or something. I saw Nisi Pisa do a video like that recently and I thought it was awesome. So let me know if you guys want to see a video like that. But basically, never ever getting rid of this palette. You guys can see I've used a ton of it. I rarely use it now, but it brings so much emotion to me for some reason. I honestly feel the same way about like all of these Too Faced chocolate bar palettes. I feel like really stressed about the idea of decluttering them. And honestly, Too Faced gifted me a new version of the chocolate bar palette when I'm like, oh, I actually have the old original version, the thicker one. It was like my first ever full-size palette, and they're like, here you go, have a new one. And I'm like, well, I still want to use this one. I can't get rid of this one. Yeah, this is another one that gets me like super emotional. It's not exciting. It's not, I don't know. I can't get rid of stuff like this. Same, just all of them. They just will never leave my collection. But in case you guys don't know what these look like, semi-sweet. Oh, the smell gets me too. Like, makes me so happy. Gingerbread's a little bit more recent, but love this one. I need to start using this more. I haven't opened this up in a while. I think like since like maybe the end of the year. But this is a gorgeous palette, gorgeous formula. So I need to start wearing it more. Natural Matte I am keeping as well. This is also like my favorite matte palette in my collection. Love the shades in here. Whenever I'm using a palette that doesn't have like the perfect transition shade or enough transition shades, this is the palette that I reach for to use with that palette, because it's always like a staple for me. Really creamy blendable formula. All right, so let's actually declutter something. I'm gonna declutter both of these, Soul and Mod from ColourPop, just because I haven't used them very often. And I might actually end up buying that Sweet Talk palette from ColourPop. This is a Soul palette. I just don't feel like using them, honestly. And I honestly feel like part of the reason I don't reach for these palettes is because of the plastic packaging. It makes no sense to me, but like reaching for the packaging and opening it doesn't interest me as much as like this or any other ColourPop palette. I don't know why. It's like part of the reason why I decluttered my bulky packaging Tarte and Too Faced palette and my face palette declutter. The packaging just annoys me for some reason. So I'm gonna declutter those. I have so many similar ColourPop palettes that I don't need to hang on to those. Dream Street, I do really like. I'm hanging on to this one. This is really well used and loved as well. And then I think I'm gonna keep everything else in here. I'm not getting rid of Pat McGrath because you guys know this stuff is expensive. This is the Bronze Sublime palette. So I really like the formula of this one. It's definitely very neutral, very like basic shades basically. And I do want to try out more from Pat McGrath. So hang on to that. It is very pricey too. Hang on to both of these, Naked Heat and Naked Cherry from Urban Decay. I'll go ahead and show you guys in case you aren't familiar with them. Warm, neutral palette, kind of a staple. And Naked Cherry is a little bit more new. This one's like very purpley. Really pretty palette as well. I'm not going to really wear these shades maybe this summer. I don't really tend to go for these tones in the spring and summer. But come fall time, if I'm not wearing either palette, then maybe I will end up decluttering those. I do have the Anastasia Modern Renaissance. I always forget about this palette just because mine, like so many shades are used up, and I'm just gonna keep it until it like falls apart basically. But I never really wear this palette anymore. I feel like I gave it all the love that I had to give to it like 2 years ago. but it's another one that I'm kind of like very sentimental about. Then we have some Morphe. I'm gonna keep this one. This is the Ring the Alarm Jaclyn Hill palette. I don't wear this enough. I need to wear this more and put this in an everyday makeup drawer. Half this video is just me realizing what I need to start prioritizing in my collection. And then this is a Morphe palette that I actually need to start using. This is the 15H palette. This is actually a beautiful palette. I got it in Ipsy Glam Bag Plus. They sent me like 6 months ago, and this is gorgeous for summer. So basically every palette in my collection is gonna be in my everyday makeup drawer like next month. Maybe I should do like a kind of like a something on Instagram, like a palette challenge or something, to make me actually use all of my palettes and just like change things up. So I'm just putting everything that I'm keeping back in here, but I'm thinking I don't want to do any videos that are like kind of like using old makeup products, because just seeing how many palettes I have, I don't feel like that'll be very efficient. I would have to do like 20 of those videos to kind of get through, well, almost all of my palettes. But if you guys have any video suggestions of like palette comparison ideas, or like comparing neutral palettes, or like neutral palette best and worst, because half of these are neutrals, just any ideas for like palette roundup videos. Like I've done like best of ColourPop, best of like Anastasia, things like that, but with like all of these palettes in my collection that I'm not wearing as often, where I can take some time and like really compare them and like narrow down the best ones. Let me know if you guys have any ideas for those. All right, moving into this second drawer. This is where we're gonna see a lot more of the declutter actually happen, and not just like a eyeshadow palette collection video. But to me that's kind of fun too, because I get to tell you guys like my thoughts really quickly about like everything in my collection. Okay, so here we go. Okay, I'm gonna start off with something. I'm kind of sad about decluttering, but I know I'm not gonna use it. This is the Urban Decay Elements palette. I'm decluttering this because I like it, but not enough to keep it, basically. I did a comparison to the Urban Decay Born to Run. There's a lot of similarities there, and what's unique about this palette isn't interesting enough for me to hang on to it. It's also something that's just practically I don't want to keep, because this is huge in my drawer. It gets stuck in here, and I've like almost made a negative association with it, because like it's just so bulky, and I'm reminded that I don't use it every time that I open this drawer. So that's why I'm decluttering it. It's a good formula, but I don't end up wearing it. So my Morphe palettes are huge, but I'm hanging on to both of them. Morphe James Charles. I haven't worn this in a very long time, and I definitely need to wear it more as well. It's a huge palette. There's a lot going on in here. I don't know if I'm a big fan of like huge palettes like this. Like this is the biggest palette in my collection. Like it's basically the whole drawer. I definitely like this palette. I need to wear it more. I don't reach for it because it's so big that it's like annoying to have in my vanity, because I don't know, it takes up a lot of room. So that's how I feel about it. I do really actually like the formula though, but I prefer Jaclyn Hill palette, and I do have a comparison and swatches of both palettes. I really like this palette. This is very used and abused. It's a gorgeous palette. Love like everything in here. And then next up, honestly, I think I don't want to, but I do want to get rid of the Anastasia Prism palette. I have not used this. I used it when it came out, and then there's so many things happening with Anastasia that I love, and so many Anastasia palettes that I love, and this isn't one of them. I keep it because it's my favorite brand, but it's my least favorite product from my favorite brand. And if this was any other brand, I probably would have decluttered it a long time ago. So that tells me, let me get rid of this, let me pass this along. I just don't wear it. All right, next up, Ace Beauty. This is an awesome palette. This is their Grandiose palette. Really great formula. This is another palette I got in a BoxyCharm a couple months ago. Sometimes I get palettes that I love. Sometimes I get palettes like the other one I mentioned that I just forget about completely. But this is a great formula. I want to try more from this brand for sure. We have a lot of drugstore palettes going on in here. So I did a review of both of these Physicians Formulas palettes. I had like a really odd experience, if you guys saw that video, with this palette. The green shade like stained my eyelid, and I think it was a combination of the shadow specifically with the makeup remover that I was using that stained my eyelid red. But with that being said, everything else in this palette I had no issue with, and I really like the formula. So I'm gonna hang on to this palette because the green shade stained my eyes, and I don't want to pass this along and have somebody else have that same reaction, because now I know to avoid that shade in this palette. So I'm gonna hang on to this. It's actually a really good formula. I just had like a really weird experience. It was a very specific situation. But I'm going to declutter this one. And this was a palette I actually thought I would like a bit more because it's more warm tone, but it's like a very basic palette. I have so many palettes in my collection that are more exciting than this with similar shades. The formula wasn't like super groundbreaking, but it's a really good drugstore formula. So it's something like, I'll give it a B, and I have so many A's in my collection. That's the best way that I could put it. So I'm gonna declutter this. And I don't really want to keep this. This is new from Kevin Aquan. I have a couple of these. I'm gonna declutter all of them. The formula really didn't stand out to me. Right here there was like a glitter or liquid eyeshadow. I'll hang on to that. I have that in a separate drawer. But I'm gonna get rid of the actual palettes. This one is more of like a neutrally palette. They're both neutral palettes, not super exciting. Getting rid of that. Then I have all of these from Wet n Wild. There was one that I didn't want to keep, this one. From the Rebel Rose collection. This is like the super cool tone one. I'm never ever gonna wear this. And I'm pretty sure I said that in that video that this was just like the one that I didn't like out of the three. So I'm not gonna keep this one, but I actually really like the other two. So I'm gonna keep the other two palettes. It's actually a really good formula. The reason I don't like this one is the colors. I really don't like these shades. But the formula, if you guys are interested, the green in this palette is really, really pretty. This is the House of Thorns. And then this one's probably my favorite, Bed of Roses. Gorgeous formula, gorgeous shades. I'm gonna hang on to this as well. Perception from ColourPop, one of my faves. I'm going to keep that one for sure. Really similar, I feel like, to the new ColourPop Disney Villains palette. Let me know if you guys feel the same way. And then this is a palette. I only keep this in my collection because I don't like it, and so I can remind you guys that I don't like it. Honestly, because whenever I've tried other Huda Beauty palettes, like, I want to keep this as a reference for the formula. So I understand that's a very weird reason to keep a palette, but because I just enjoy doing comparison videos, comparing formulas, I like to have this as a point of reference. So this is just like a weird, I don't know, hobby. I don't know. I'm keeping this just because I'm weird. And I don't like that palette. All right, I remember saying in my declutter back in November, if by the beginning of the year I haven't used this palette, I'm getting rid of it in my next declutter. And what happened? Didn't use it. Haven't used it in a year. Getting rid of it. This is actually a good palette though, from The Bomb Cosmetics, but it's another palette that's like a B plus, and I have all these shades and palettes that are A's. So here's the KKW Mario palette. This is a really good one too. I need to use it more. I have had it in my everyday makeup drawer in the last couple months, and I was using it actually for a bit, like around the holidays, and then I put it back in this drawer, but I really like it. I just need to start using it more. Obviously I have so much that I can't like rotate through everything, but I'm trying, and I'm trying to make a better effort. This is a holiday palette from Lancome. I honestly don't even know. I didn't even touch this palette, I don't think. So I'm gonna end up passing this one along. This is basically brand new. So donating that one. Keeping Urban Decay Naked Basics. Another thing that like really makes me super, like, I pick this up and it just like, my body goes into like, I don't know, it's like sweating because it just I have so much emotion attached to this, and it looks so disgusting. I obviously don't wear this palette, but it's almost like I just want to take the powders out of here and keep this as like, put it in like a treasure box or something. I don't know. It's so weird. Like, there's so many few belongings that I have like in general that I'm emotional about, but like that palette, this one, and some of my Too Faced palettes are like the things that I'm the most emotionally attached to out of everything I own at all, which is so weird. Whatever. But Urban Decay Naked 3, another palette that I got on like a really, really important day in my life. So keeping this. I don't like the formula, I don't like the palette, but I like the memory attached to it. And the sticker is back here. I guess I'll just retouch that. But this is another thing I'm keeping for probably forever. Here's another one I'm super attached to, but not in the like weird emotional way as the other ones I'm attached to. This is the holiday palette from Too Faced from 2014. I actually wore this for a really, really long time, and I don't need this anymore, but I'm gonna hang on to it until I know that I'm not gonna be sad if I get rid of it, because I'm still like emotionally attached to it, but not, like it's not as big of a deal to me. That's half the clutter in my palette collection, but those are some of them. I honestly probably just need to do like a separate drawer for the stuff that I'm like emotionally attached to and don't use. Okay, here we have, I want to get rid of this. This is Morphe 350. I specifically only bought it to compare it to the Jaclyn Hill palette, and that was a while ago. That was actually a year ago. Or almost like 2 years ago now, and I really never ever wear this palette. No need for it in my collection. Yeah, I think I'm getting rid of this one. Gonna pass this one along. Here we have Huda Beauty Smoky Obsessions, and I was keeping this one because I love these like really smoky shades, especially that silver shade, but I actually never see myself reaching for this, and there's similar shades that I really like in like my Sultry palette, so I'm gonna pass this one along too. This is one of my favorites, like cool tone palettes in my collection, but I just don't wear it anymore, and I have other shades from newer palettes that I really like too. Too Faced Pretty Rich. I need to actually put this in an everyday makeup drawer probably like next month, because I never really reached for this palette, but there's things that I love about it, and then there's things that are just like okay about it. What I love are the glitters, and yeah, that's really what I love about it. So let me actually put it in an everyday makeup drawer next month, and if I don't use the glitters, then I really shouldn't keep it, because everything else is just like very, very standard. And also this is another palette that's like so bulky in my drawer that if I'm not gonna use it, I shouldn't keep it. But I really, really like the glitters in here. I just need to actually get myself to start wearing them more. Then we have e.l.f. Sunset Gold palette, or this is the Rose Gold Sunset palette. This is actually a beautiful palette from e.l.f. One of my faves. Really amazing drugstore palette for sure. Alright, so next up we have the Anastasia Shadow Couture Kit. This is an older palette. I don't wear it very often, if not often at all anymore, but it is still a really awesome palette. Another one that I'm keeping for sentimental reasons, but also it's like a really great palette, really great formula. Then we have, I actually love this palette. I don't get to wear it very often because I forget about it, because it's like way back there all the time. Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette. This one is gorgeous, gorgeous formula. If you have ever considered it, I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. The foiled shades in here are stunning. The mattes are great as well. I definitely want to get more from Colored Rain. This one's pretty new from e.l.f. This is the new Classics palette. I got this just back in January. This is actually a really great formula. Let me know if you guys want to see like a full face of e.l.f. or something. I might need a foundation from them if I want to make that video, but really, really love this. Really great quality. I think it's like $12 or $15. It's really affordable. Really, just really great palette for sure. Especially if you want like a bigger palette from the drugstore. Subculture I just keep for LOLs basically. Like, I'm never gonna use this palette, but I just keep it for, I don't know, I keep it for nostalgia. I just can't get rid of it. I can't really justify it. I just have to keep it. It's just like a weird thing I have to do. Persona Identity palette. This is a great palette. Mine looks like really messy, and they're coming out with a new one later this year. I just saw it like on their Insta story. This is a beautiful neutral palette. A lot of more like cool tones in here, and then the shimmers in here are beautiful as well. If you've ever considered it, definitely check out this palette. If you like these like shades, like everyday colors, totally worth it for sure. We have the Anastasia and Mario palette, another palette I never wear anymore either, but this palette doesn't exist anymore, and that's why I keep it in my collection. Is kind of like FOMO if I do get rid of it, and I don't want to get rid of it just because it's also Just a really great palette, really great formula. But as you've seen like 50 times already, I have so many really great neutral palettes, but this is also like an amazing formula. This from Charlotte Tilbury, I'm gonna keep because I want to pass it along to my mom when I see her this spring. This is the Charlotte Tilbury, which one is it called? This is their Instant Eye palette. It came out last year. It's no longer available. It's a really pretty palette. It's really pricey too, so that's why I want to keep it in my collection and actually like pass it along to my mom, because it's also like very neutral. I think she would like that. These from ColourPop, I think I just need to toss these. These are like really old single shadows from when they first came out. I haven't used these like ever. Well, I did. I used them for a very long time, but I haven't used these ever in the past like year and a half. So definitely getting rid of those. And then lastly, what we have, I mentioned this before, this is an Itsy Cosmetics like eyeshadow quad from a few years ago and some single shadows. This is the only magnetic palette I have in my collection. And I definitely need to get a new one for sure, but because it's the only magnetic palette I have, I'm also gonna hang on to it. All right, so I actually decluttered quite a bit because now everything can actually fit in my drawers. If you guys have any suggestions on how I should organize these two drawers, I really don't have room in my collection for more than these two drawers. Like I can't do like 4 drawers of like to actually see everything. So if you guys have any suggestions on how I should like organize these palettes now that I have a lot more room, let me know, and then let me show you everything that I'm getting rid of. So here is everything that I got rid of in this declutter. It was 20 palettes total. The 2 ColourPop ones are the only ones that I'm going to toss because they're kind of old and gross. Everything else is in really good condition, so it's like 18 palettes that I can donate. And yeah, that's going to be everything for this declutter. I actually ended up getting rid of a lot, considering I did do another eyeshadow palette declutter like in the past 3 months. So that's going to be everything for today. If you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.